Right? Ah, there he is. Hey, Avi, welcome.
Hello, everyone. Nice to be here with you guys tonight.
Thank you so much for joining us tonight. It's still 5 o'clock here in LA. The sun has not gone down, so um, it is smack in the middle of my Sunday. Do not mind any of the noise in the background. My dog actually may walk into the room any minute, so
Okay.
that should be fun as
Very,
well.
very exciting to see your dog come into the room.
We'll see. We'll see. We'll try to bring him on later.
Yes.
Anyway, so tell us a little bit about yourself, and then we have a bunch of questions for you as well. So why don't you start?
Sure. So, my name is Avi. I'm a clinical therapist. I'm actually in my office right now. And maybe if we have time, maybe later, if you guys want, we can do a tour and go to the other side of the office and see all the therapy animals, if you guys are
Amazing.
into it.
Oh, we would love
Let's
that.
make the
Sure,
Absolutely.
we can do
time.
that.
Let's make the time.
Okay, no problem. So it's interesting because a lot of people refer to me as, oh, the guy with the dogs, or oh, the guy with all the therapy, or the guy with all the animals. So I'm a therapist first, meaning just like other therapists who work with anxiety, depression, trauma, OCD, PTSD, with couples, families, children, schools. That's kind of what I do. One of the modalities that I use, which happens to be the most popular skill, is working with therapy animals in my practice. So at this point, I'm seeing children from ages and up. So children, teens, couples, families. I work with schools, nursing homes, hospitals, psych wards. We go to a lot of different clinics. So it's a lot of fun for sure.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
That sounds so much fun. It almost feels like you're not working.
It's definitely a lot of fun. And you're absolutely right. I don't see this as a job. This is my life. I definitely had to commit my entire life to this because, it's not a 9 to 5, because especially with the animals, it's 24-hour care. And even, the way I set up my office, I couldn't just get a regular storefront somewhere or a building, a shared office space, because these animals obviously need 24-hour care, weekends, vacation days, holidays, all of that. They all need to care. So it's not for everyone, but this is definitely the most incredible opportunity that I have, and I definitely don't take it lightly. That's for sure.
So
Wow.
can you tell us a little bit more about I'm just so curious about the 24-hour care. I mean, it sounds like you need to have a veterinarian office or something, almost like how does that work?
It
So
sounds
I'll
like
be
you're
honest.
Maya on the table.
This is my deal. This is my deal I have with God, and I said, Hashem, I'm trying my best to do whatever I can to take care of these animals. In the end of the day, they're your animals. I'm just a messenger over here taking care of them. Just like, by the way, sometimes when I work with parents, and parents sometimes feel like they have so much difficulties with their child, they take it so personally. Like when their child doesn't do something, it's like a reflection of them. But it's like, hang on a second. If God gave you this child, He really felt like you are the best one to care for them. So give yourself a little bit of credit. So here also in this situation where, in all honesty, the most important thing is health. If my animals are healthy, we're all good. I don't mind the work, because if they get sick, that's when it gets really difficult. Whether it's the financial expense, the emotional toll it takes on us, on me, and on my clients. But thank God, it's been a really smooth ride. Um, God has been very good to all of us, so He's been really helping take care of them.
It's usually like that. That's
You
amazing.
mentioned that, the animals is not your main thing. You do a lot of other types of therapy, but why don't you share with us how you got into the pet therapy? Because that is
Sure.
not, lots of therapists do what you do, but I don't know anyone who deals with animals, who uses animals in their practice. And since Shaina and I are, really the whole theme of what we do is all about teens. If you have any, stories or things that, that you want to share that helped a teen when they were struggling, in dealing with animals. So it's kind of like two things, like where did you get started? And if there's any stories that you want to share.
Sure. So obviously, I have to be very careful with sharing certain
Right,
information,
right, right.
certain stories, just to protect the privacy of my clients, and I take that very seriously. So this is what I'll say. I always was an animal lover. I always asked and I shared this on my previous podcast on my page. I always wanted animals. And this is something, interestingly, how I connect with many of my teen clients, because a lot of them say, can you just convince my parents to get me a dog? I really just want an animal. And I so feel them, because growing up, I always would tell my parents, please get me a dog. And they would say, sure, when you get married, you can get whatever you want. So I think at this point, I'm just overcompensating for everything. But real talk, when I was in graduate school, I got a golden retriever, Sophie, who's an amazing, amazing, amazing dog. And she actually came from a line of therapy dogs, guide dogs, emotional support dogs. So she was an excellent line. And to be honest, I really didn't want to leave her home all day. So I said, you know what? Let me make her into a therapy dog. So this way, at least she can work with my clients. She can be with me. She's not going to be home. And from there, it just took off. Like something so small. A mother was having a very difficult time with her child taking showers. And I said, and I was at this time I was still an intern. I wasn't even a therapist yet. And I said, is it okay with you if I bring my little puppy at that time into our session and see how he responds to it? And we did some grooming with the dog, some brushing, even some like we use like a dry deodorant, just to be able to talk about hygiene. And that night, he was able to go into the shower. The mother was able to bring in the stories that we used with Sophie and say, hey, you remember when Sophie did this? Let's also try to do this here. And he was so excited. And from there, he was able to see, like, hey, this is not a negative thing. There was a positive association done there. Oftentimes in schools, for example, we know research shows that animals, specifically dogs even, can help children who have anxiety when it comes to reading in a classroom setting. So when we'll come to a classroom, we'll sit down there during circle time, and you'll notice children who have anxiety with reading, or just such a negative connection with reading, automatically now they feel comfort. And the most important thing is they don't feel judged. A lot of the times, children feel judged. Will I make a mistake? Will the students in the class laugh at me? Will my teacher punish me? So all of this negative thinking is not there with the animal, because there's no judgment there. It's just a safe zone. So I started with the dog. Shortly after, I also started working in a nursing home. And as I would see different patients, one of the patients would say, I'm here, I'm stuck here, I can't go home. I really miss my cat. And I said, hey, it would be such an interesting idea. Let me go look into that. Fun fact, when I was a little kid, I got attacked by a cat. And for years, I was petrified of cats, because cats have this like negative connection to it. They'll scratch you, they're vicious, they'll harm you, right? But in reality, that's so far from the truth. It's also respecting their space and knowing what they like and what they don't like. A cat is not a dog. You can't treat a cat like a dog. And just if you have this mentality with all other animals, so long story short, I got the cat. Now, how do I use the cat in therapy? I know I'm jumping from place to place, but at the end, you'll get the whole picture. A lot of the times, especially with children who have issues with impulse control, they want to touch the animal. They want to touch it right now. They call the animal needs to come right now. They want to give the treat. The animal needs to eat the treat right now, right? When working with cats, with dogs, it's probably like that. You come to the dog loves the pet, the dog will take the treat. But when it comes to a cat, the cat comes when it wants to come, right? So you have to be able to kind of just stand there and observe. And even though that makes you feel uncomfortable and impulsive, like you really want it right now, it's learning to be mindful of your space, and just watching the cat, respecting boundaries, because that's an excellent conversation. Every single animal I have within my practice, there's a learning lesson from it. Moving forward, I would see any questions yet?
We're just like, right, me and Shaina were like, just keep talking.
Okay. Moving forward from there, I heard from people saying, I really loved birds. I miss my parrots. And I said, hey, let me look into that. And it was like a snowball effect. One thing led to another, one thing led to another. And honestly, I actually, in my eighth grade yearbook, it actually says in the year 2020 or in the year whatever, what is everybody going to be? And under my name, it said I'm going to be a veterinarian. I always loved animals. So I thought, animal, what can an animal lover do at that age? It was a veterinarian. The older I got, actually, I realized one of the highest suicide rates are of veterinarians.
Oh my.
Because if you think about it, imagine this. You go into one room, you're putting down an animal. You go into another room, you see a little girl with her little puppy, and she's so excited. Imagine how quickly the vet has to switch their emotions, right? From minute to minute. And a
Wow.
lot of the times, based on the research, a lot of the times veterinarians actually get blamed for the loss of a pet. And there's so much that they carry. Sometimes they just can't save an animal. So, and seeing something like that on a daily, it really negatively affects
Right.
them. So that was something that I didn't pursue. I was actually a teacher for a number of years, and I loved interacting with people, always in like the mental health arena. And I noticed being a teacher kind of limited me. So I said, you know how can I kind of not just be confined in the classroom? I want to kind of broaden my horizon. So that's where I became a therapist. And then I did a lot of research and a lot of courses in terms of understanding animal behavior and how I can just incorporate it into my practice. You know how they say the overnight success took like 10 years?
Right.
That's really what it is. There's certain things that you see on social media, but there is so much more that goes on in the background. If I can have a camera following me around just through my day to day, it's really interesting to look at. Like the people I speak with, the places I have to go, the trainings that I have to do. And it's really thinking out of the box. And that's what I love so much because it also translates to the work that I do with people. Because therapy is both a science and an art. Meaning, yes, we understand theory. We go to school, we learn what we have to learn. But at the end of the day, everyone is different. I remember on my second year of my internship, during the interview process, I had to fill out a paperwork, and it said there, who is your ideal client? And it's interesting because as an intern, I'm like, what kind of question is this? Who's my ideal client? How can I even answer that? Everyone has their own stuff that they're dealing with. Like you can say what your ideal client is, but in reality, you don't know who's going to walk through your door. You don't know who's going to sit on your couch. So, long story short, one thing led to another, and I started to build, my animal menagerie. And then I got a call. This was very interesting. I got a call from, I believe, another therapist, and she said, I have a client who needs help with exposure therapy for spiders. I said, sure. I thought about it for a moment, and I said, I've been doing exposure therapy with dogs and cats. I haven't really done it with spiders. It's really the same concept, right? Like think of it as a muscle in your brain. It's the same thing. If I were to ask you, can you lift a dumbbell that's like 20 pounds, and then can you lift a shopping bag that's 20 pounds? It's the same thing, right? Same thing with exposure therapy. It's the same technique, but just a different object, right? So I said, I'm going to look into it. I had to reach out to see where I can get a tarantula from. Long story short, in the beginning, I live in Five Towns in the Woodmere. It looks like you're freaking out.
A little bit. It's all right. I'm here. I'm away from the tarantula. All good. Maybe
Well,
I need the
it's
exposure
okay not
therapy.
to be exposed to things. I mean,
Right.
can we also
Right.
just acknowledge that? Like maybe it's okay not to be exposed.
So that's a very good point. My goal is never, and it's funny, I just had this conversation with somebody today. My goal is never to make someone love the animal.
Right.
My goal is to make the person take back control over their life. If
Makes
you
sense.
go to somebody's house for Shabbos, for a dinner, for a party, whatever it is, and they have a puppy, they have a dog, they have a cat,
Or a
right?
tarantula in
Um,
a cage
or
upstairs.
or or a spider or a cockroach or any of these animals, right? we don't want you to leave the party because that's there, right? Like, let's think of it. Let's say even something like a cockroach, and we could talk a lot about this, right? Um, they're, whether we like it or not, they're part of our life. We're gonna see them, whether it's a water bug, a mosquito, a fly, a cockroach. It's gonna happen. Now, if you're able to see it and take care of it without a problem, wonderful. You don't have an issue. But if it affects your activities of daily living, that's an issue. If you're running out the house until your spouse comes home or your neighbor comes and saves the day, that's a problem.
Okay, that makes sense.
If you're running up 13 flights and you're not taking the elevator, that's a problem. If you're walking with your baby carriage and you see a dog and you throw your baby and you run across the street, which does happen, by the way, because you can't think clearly, that's an issue. That's why we talk about taking back control. Any
Yeah,
questions?
No
I
questions.
get it. Yeah.
No questions. I guess I had a thought that came to my mind about the exposure therapy, because I guess what you're saying is that it's not so much about what the animal is, it's about the person's irrational fears towards whatever animal it is.
I'm not going to say
Rational,
irrational because sometimes
or
it could be
sometimes it could be rational.
a rational fear, and I tell this to my clients all the time. I love dogs. If I'm walking down the street, I will not come up to any dog and just start petting the dog, right? Or if I'm walking down the street and there's somebody walking with a dog off leash, that makes me uncomfortable. Even
Right.
though I love animals, and I always want to empower my clients and tell them just because someone is walking a dog off leash, that is not okay. Use your voice and say, please put your dog on a leash because it's against the law to do that. Things like that. A lot of the times when a person has anxiety, they shut down. They forget that they are able to use their voice. Even something like, I'm uncomfortable. If you're in an elevator and somebody's dog is sniffing you and coming close to you and you don't like that, you're entitled to your space. You can tell them, please keep your dog next to you. That is totally fine. But if you're not going into the elevator because of it, and now you're going to be late to work or late to go home, that's the problem.
Right. So it's when it's affecting your day-to-day life in a really big way, not just like,
That's
ew,
it.
I don't like
Right.
spiders. Like, yeah.
You're allowed to not like spiders. And if you think about it, when people tell me that, they think like sometimes they feel, especially in the beginning, they feel like I'm going to be offended if they tell me that. I totally get it. On my free time, I'm not sitting and petting my tarantula. I don't do that, or
Right.
my cockroach, right? Uh,
You have a
but
cockroach?
I do
Why,
have cockroaches. Yeah.
wow. You have to take
Yeah.
care.
They're actually really easy animals to take
I'm
care of. I got them from a
sure.
breeder. They eat apples, they eat pears, they eat bananas, they eat
Did you
potatoes.
say a breeder? Do you really need a breeder for
Just come
cockroaches? I
to
can easily get
Brooklyn.
you. I mean, I live in LA, they're all over. I can get
Well,
it to you for
to be
free.
honest, I also wanted to be safe, obviously, because I'm working with people, and I don't ever want to get into a situation where I don't know what disease they might carry from the streets or from outside. So I wanted to make sure that I get it from a breeder where they're in an enclosed area where they're not contaminated in any way. So I try my best to do my work to make sure that I'm the safest as possible.
Okay.
Got it. Oh, wow. Okay. So,
Yeah.
so I wanna like, you were in the middle of telling us a story that you got a tarantula.
Right. So in the beginning, before I got the tarantula, I'm like, okay, I have to see how I can make this work. And in Five Towns in Woodmere, there's these like jumping spiders. The funniest thing. It's really hard to catch. But I was able to catch it before my session. So I caught it before my session. I showed it to my client. We put it in a little container, and it worked beautifully. The next session, same thing. And at that point, I'm like, okay, I can't keep catching spiders. If I don't make it on time for my session, and I don't have a spider to show, like, what am I going to do? I need to get my own. And I started to do a lot of research on different tarantulas, different spiders, and I noticed the specific one that I have are the most docile. They're the most friendliest. They don't really move much. They don't mind being held, and many people actually have them as pets. So that's how I got the. So I ended up getting the tarantulas, And it was such a hit. It was such a hit. And you'll be surprised, even something like a tarantula or a cockroach, you know what it is? We pass judgment so quickly, and we are not mindful, unfortunately, of the things around us. And I'll give you an example. Oftentimes, when I do an event with kids or with adults, or even for other social workers or in other organizations, I say, if you really think about it, a cockroach, we really need to be very thankful for them because the universe really needs them. And someone said it's an absolutely no for me for the spider.
That's my sister.
Oh, okay. We'll get to that. We'll get to that. So if you think about cockroaches, they are the number one cleaners of the universe. They kind of eat dead plants, dead matter, right? Which kind of helps clean the universe. And when we talk to kids about every single creature has a place on this earth, and every single creature we can really learn from them. Cockroaches are, if you think about it, they're the ultimate survivors. They can go through some really, really challenging times, whether it's no food for a long time, no water for a long time, different various climates, and they push through. So talking about resilience, it's an excellent conversation starter where we can also talk to clients or even get the conversation out there, especially to teens who want to freak out their parents and purposely want to hold the tarantula mid-session, knowing that it bothers their parents. But that's also a way I establish rapport with them. It works wonders.
Would you, we'll pivot from getting over fears to animals that help teens, or we can talk about people, but let's zoom in on teens with anxiety, with depression, with sensory
Mental
issues. I mean, I
health,
know
any type
both
of mental
me
health.
and Shaina, we both have dogs. Neither of us are dog people. Neither of us grew up
Oh,
wanting dogs.
well, no, wait.
Oh,
I
sorry.
had a dog growing up. I had a dog
Oh,
growing
really?
up.
So did I, but
Yes.
they were guard dogs. Like, they weren't
Right. But
pets. They were outside our house.
because you were living in South Africa, I was
Right.
living in LA. It was a little different.
So both of
Um,
us had situations with our, one of our own kids that it was highly, highly recommended to get a dog. So we have a cockapoo. Shayna, what do you have?
I have a multi-poo.
Okay. And from, me and my husband, we were not dog people, but this dog has brought so much joy and love and happiness
Healing. A
into
lot of healing in my
healing.
house.
Forget what he's done for my daughter. She had a really hard time sleeping. He sleeps, he falls asleep next to her. He doesn't move until she's sleeping. She couldn't sleep at night. I mean, I can go on. You probably know all the benefits, but from a therapeutic perspective, share with us, what do these animals, I'm thinking both of us, Shana and I, were both parenting coaches, and so often, we want to be just get your kid a dog. It's going to change everything. But obviously, the communities that we live in, people are not running to buy dogs. But I am curious about this tarantula, because that might be the next best thing.
Or, well, what about just it doesn't even have to be something that drastic. It could even just be a bird or,
Yeah,
something,
what are your
something.
thoughts on bringing animals into the home for teenagers that are really struggling with whatever they're struggling with?
Yeah. So this is the thing. Great question. And I'm really glad to hear that the dog helped for both of you in such an amazing way. However, just based on experience and based on my work with many families and many situations, before I tell them to get a dog, I have a series of questions to ask them. Because yes, I agree with you. The dog, if done correctly, it can be life
Yes.
changing. It
None
can
of
be
us
the
have
most
little kids.
incredible. It can be the
Both of us
most
are our babies are big. Our teenagers are big.
right. So it can be the most incredible thing for the home. However, if everybody's not going to be on the same page, whether it's with training, whether it's with taking it out, whether it's with cleaning, whether it's feeding, all of these things, if the household is not on the same page, it can absolutely be a disaster.
Right.
Because what happens is oftentimes children will feel, or even early teens, I would say 12, 13, 14, might say, please get me a dog, get me a dog. All I want is just a dog. I'll be the best, student. I'll be the best child. Just get me the dog. and the parent will get them the dog. And then week one, they're so excited, but also have sleepless nights and they don't know what to do. And that whole cycle of the dog is crying, the dog just peed everywhere, the dog is not eating, the dog is eating too much, the dog chewed my shoes. So a lot of the times that becomes so stressful, and the parent who actually needs to really step up and be like, hey, we're going to do this together, because children are developmentally not capable of caring for an animal,
We
Correct.
do everything.
especially
Oh, yeah,
that's
Yeah.
I
it.
do everything. I
Right.
do everything. I did
So
that.
if
I Yeah, I agree.
the parents are going to say, I'm fully committed and I am on board, I agree with you 100%. It can be the best thing. But because think about it this way, the teen, they're still developing. They're still trying to figure themselves out. They're barely taking care of themselves.
Right.
And now you want them to take care of an animal, which is, in my book, equivalent to a child. The amount of care that
Toddler.
they need, you have to be so in tune. I know this is like TMI, but even the way they poop, right? If they're pooping, so if they're having soft stool, you have to be very alert. It's not just a random thing. You have to say, hang on a second, their poop is off. What did they eat? Do I have to monitor now? Why did my dog vomit? What's happening? And for dog owners, like, we know what this actually means, because
Right.
then it becomes a whole other issue where they ate something. Do I have to take them to the vet? Do I have to give meds? Do I have to monitor? So there's so much that goes in here that really, it's really up to the parents to say, I'm going to be here and I'm going to support you and we'll do this together. This can also be an excellent bonding opportunity for parents, especially for teens and parents who don't get along. This could help, but the parent really has to be emotionally available to have another child in the household, because that's really what it is.
It's a commitment. It's a commitment of having another child. And
100%.
that's what I tell everybody whenever I get called and asked, oh, you have a dog. I've had a dog for 6 years now. I always say you have to be committed to knowing you're having a child that's never going to grow up.
Yeah, absolutely.
Um,
Absolutely.
that's what
A
I say.
child that's never going to grow up.
But but also even though I am the primary caretaker for the dog, my children would lose it if we didn't have it. Meaning,
Right.
if I ever say like, "Oh, I wonder what's going to happen XYZ," when they're like, "What do you mean that Chase is going to be here forever?" Or we're
Right.
always like, "It's nothing's going to happen to him. We can't ever get rid of him." Like they are obsessed with
Yeah.
him.
100%. 100%. It sounds like in both of your families, it's a family decision that you said, we're going to take this dog and he's one of us. So that's why it sounds like it's working really well. But in families where there's a constant fight of who's going to walk the dog, who's going to feed the dog, who's going to groom the dog, who's going to, care for it, that's an issue. And it doesn't seem like that family is ready for an animal.
Right.
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 Because the animals feel energy. 100% animals feel energy. And if they see that there's this kind of tension in the household, you'll see some negative behaviors come up, or the dog will show signs of depression
And anxiety. My dog has a
and
bit of
anxiety.
anxiety.
And anxiety
Yeah.
too.
But it also helps with my kids that suffer from anxiety, which is so
Mhm.
crazy to me. Where my dog who has anxiety helps my daughter who has anxiety.
Yeah.
So she'll just come and lay down on top of him and he's like stressing out. She's like, no, you're going to let me hold you right now,
Yeah.
and like she
Yeah.
just will pet him.
Right.
But, I like to stress to parents that if they have a child who suffers from either any type of mental health issue, to strongly consider it. It is a gift. It's a gift to the family. And if they are mentally prepared, it's literally giving a gift. And they have to know that I am going to change my child's life. It's a sacrifice
Worth it.
that will pay off over time.
Yeah. Yeah. But
Right.
but exactly like Avi said, like I think if the parents are willing to be committed to raising this and taking care of it and not expecting anything from the
Anything from the
kids
children.
and being the primary caregivers, it's, I mean, my daughter had an issue just, being touched or touching others. And literally, it just, she's just like melted. Like this dog has just, it just has done. I said, I want to like shout it from the rooftops.
Yeah.
Any issues that your kids have, if a parent is willing to make the commitment, it's just it just does wonders. It does absolute. I mean, one of my sons, he's not very emotional. Since we've had the dog, he giggles and he laughs and he flops with him. He just, this dog, his name's Waffles, and he just The
I
whole
love
neighborhood,
it.
the whole block, all the kids on the block adore him, ride him, pull his ears. He just takes it, and he's just like such a little bracha. This
So
little
we have
pup.
waffles and we have Chase, completely on the other side of the spectrum. I love it.
Literally. Yeah. Yeah. I have a question about I had a question about like the direct effects. Like what is it scientifically that happens when I want to talk about teens right now because that is why we're here. In teenagers specifically, what is it about dogs or I don't love cats because of my own history with cats, but so I'm going to specifically talk about dogs. What is it that happens when somebody or a teen pets a dog? What is actually happening that calms their nervous system?
Mhm. That's an excellent question. So their blood pressure, they're also able to, the sensory stimulation that they're feeling, the breathing. Did you ever have this when you're petting your dog and then your dog just takes like a deep breath, like a, right?
Yeah.
So naturally, we also mirror those same emotions. I will oftentimes notice that on the couch as the person is petting the dog or when they're feeling more anxious. It happens a lot with my dogs, with my Goldens, when the person is talking about something that's bringing up some like intensity. My dog will feel it. There's actually a chemical change in our body when we're feeling anxious. So my dog will actually stand up and just paw at the person and letting them know over and over and over again until they just like, okay, I'm good, I'm fine, I'm settled, I'm okay. And when they say that, and even the visual looking at the dog and just being mindful of the dog and stopping to think about what's causing them the anxiety, that is what the change is. Our brain cannot think about two things at one time. And therefore, when we're so focused on the dog, it's stopping our negative thinking pattern, thinking of what's causing us all that pain. If you think about veterans or anybody who went through a certain type of trauma and has PTSD, a lot of the times they're in that negative cycle, right, where they're thinking about the trauma. So these dogs are trained to stop that, whether it's from hurting themselves or cutting, and these things are very much out there. I know they're not spoken about a lot, but this is absolutely what happens. For example, one of the animals that taught me lessons about myself is my horse, for example. And to be
Mm.
honest, it's the animal that tested me a lot, the most, more than any other animal. My horse definitely tested my character
Where do
because
you keep this
horse,
horse? Out of
she's
interest.
in my house. She has a bedroom in my house, not
What?
outside, in
Wait,
my
your horse
house. Yeah,
lives in a house? Is
His
that
she lives in my
house.
house. In my house, yes,
in New York?
in New York, yes.
Is that's a
And
thing? Like you can do that?
so I live in Long Island, and she's also in my house. So it's not like we're, and also she has access to a barn and a farm where she runs around and has exercise. She goes on a job, and she's not like a nuisance to anybody. So we make sure it's nice and clean. She has a proper enclosure and everything she's supposed to make sure her needs are top notch. So we make sure that she's very, very well taken care
What's her
of.
Wow.
So her name is Joy.
name? Okay. Oh, okay.
Wow.
Yeah. So
Wait, so I want to hear more about this horse because
Okay.
my daughter with anxiety has an obsession with horses.
yeah, so horses, they are so in tuned to every single sensation, whether it's a visual, whether it's sound, whether it's touch, whatever it is, anything, they sense it. So somebody who has that heightened sense of somebody's out to get me or what's going to happen, what's going to be, the horse will not listen to you. The horse will spook. The horse will run away. The horse will not be able to follow the commands, and it will not be a relationship that's going to function properly. So you have to work on your own emotional regulation in order to interact with a horse. If you are not properly emotionally regulated, horses feel that. And we know based on science, our heart rate actually matches the horse's heart rate. That's why grooming is such an important technique and activity used when working with horses, specifically doing groundwork, walking outside, being in connection, in sync with the horse. If I'm walking and I notice, there's someone mowing their lawn, I have to make sure to let the horse know, like, you're okay, stay safe, you're okay, let's walk, you're with me, Joy, you'll be okay, good girl. Like giving her those cues, letting her know you are safe. I'm here to protect you. Now, when I'm watching out for that, it trains my brain just to let myself calm down, notice threat, notice things that might cause some sense of panic, but I'm also able to settle. And think about our life. For example, whenever we're driving to work and there's traffic and we need to go to work, right? What do we start to do? We start to panic because we need to go to work. But is that helpful? Does us panicking make it go any faster?
No.
No. So if we're able to kind of just learn to settle, recognize what's there, but still learn to settle, eventually, if you do this long enough, that'll be your level of homeostasis. That'll be who you are. Because we cannot remove stress from our life. But what we can do is we can learn to manage it effectively. And that's my goal. When I work with my clients, it's not about removing the stress because it's not realistic. We talk about how we can manage it. And also, of course, I mean, who doesn't want to cuddle a cute little pony or a little horse, or any animal? Every single animal has their own life lesson. Like, I talk about this with the tarantula. Not even think of it this way. The exposure is one part of it. So I help people overcome their fears. Like I worked with someone who was afraid to go to the beach and hasn't been to the beach for years because there are always birds there. And she loves the beach, but she couldn't go to the beach. And we did some pet therapy, exposure therapy with that, and she was able to go to the beach. There was a person who also in the building had dogs. Now they're able to go into their apartment, no problem. So we use the animals as an exposure. However, if we also use the animals as a learning lesson, especially when working with kids, as a therapist, you really need to be creative because a teen, they don't want to just have a 45-minute conversation like you would with an adult. You really need to think out of the box. So when I have a tarantula and I say, what a life lesson we can learn from a tarantula is really resilience. Think about it. They build this whole web. They spend all day long building the perfect web. The rain comes, breaks it down. The wind comes, breaks it down. What do? They rebuild again. And when life comes and crushes all our hard work, we study for a test, we fail the test. We're in a friend group, our friends backstab us or betray us and become friends with somebody else, which you see that a lot with teens, especially girls, or bullying, which is a huge thing, right? And what does this tarantula do? They rebuild, right? So that's a conversation we talk about resilience, or the scorpion, managing anger. A scorpion will attack you only when it is feeling threat. A lot of the times, as parents, we pass judgment to our children. My child is such an angry child. Yeah, sometimes anger is just anger, but in reality, anger is just a mask for so many other emotions, whether it's guilt, shame, feeling judged. What is it?
Sadness could also turn into
Exactly.
anger.
Sadness, pain, absolutely. So when we're able to check in with the children who are really in pain and creating a safe space for them to just be themselves, it's a game changer to be able to actually help them throughout the difficulties that they're experiencing.
Wow.
Wow. I love how you're using them for exposure therapy. You're using them just to, calm the kids down, but also to get lessons. Like I think
Yeah.
I don't know if I showed you, what's that Sefer Perek Shira, I think it's called?
Absolutely. The last parak actually is the
Is
parak
dogs.
of a dog. And if you notice, what does it say? It says like, let me be, I trust you, master, right? Like you take the reins, you guide me, you lead me into the way that you think is right for me. That's what parak Shira says. And if you really hear it, it's really, really, if you read the parak Shira and see how every single animal, they have purpose here. And if we stop passing judgment and get curious about these animals, they're truly fascinating. Like I just recently did a very nice big event for an organization. And we were, so when I brought out initially, they said, don't bring the tarantula. Nobody's going to want it. I said, it's one of the most popular animals there. And they said, okay, fine, bring it, but you'll see, no one will like it. Long story short, that was like the highlight of the whole event because that was such a huge lesson where naturally, which is understandable, your brain says you should be afraid, push it away. I don't want it. Ew, it's disgusting. But if you, for a moment, allow yourself to look at it and just notice the beautiful colors, the intricate designs that God created, it's truly fascinating. And it has everything it needs to be able to survive and to shed its skin and build a new skin, and how they catch prey and then how they build a web. Like it's incredible. So if you apply that to every single scenario of your life or even your surrounding, how often do we actually notice our surroundings, stop and take a deep breath? We don't really do that. So it's this is just another one of those reminders.
Is it near you, your tarantula?
They are, yeah.
Do you want to introduce us?
Like take you to the
Yeah,
room?
let's
Or just,
go.
yeah, like, could
Okay.
you? Or do you want to just bring one or two out and like give us like a you know, a zoo? We're going on a virtual tour of the zoo.
Let's do a virtual tour. This is so fun. Okay, hang on a second. Let's do a virtual tour. Let me just make sure I can turn around my camera.
Shayna, are you ready for this?
Okay.
I'm so excited.
All right.
The only
As
thing
long
Here
as
we
that's
I'm not,
go.
tumultuous
not
is
in the same room with it, I'm more than fine.
no, the cockroaches is that I'm not excited about. Everything else I'm down.
Okay, so here we go. Are you ready?
We're ready.
Ready.
All right. All right,
Oh,
hang on.
do you
Okay, here you go. Okay. So
Oh,
here are the Goldens.
what are their
Oh,
names?
Okay. This is Jack right here. This is Jack. This is Sophie. You guys can hear this is Oliver. They're having their dinner.
oh,
This is so let me show you the whole room. This is where I have the food.
oh, wow.
Oh
This
wow.
is this is the whole space right here.
Oh,
Oh my God. It's like a pet
wow.
store.
It
So
looks
you
like I'm
have
in,
all
it
the
looks like I'm in
animals.
Petco.
Right here I have the horse room.
Oh my
Joy.
gosh. Oh,
Hey
Oh,
buddy. Hi.
wow.
Hi.
that-
Oh, wow.
wow. There's
So this
a
is
horse,
Joy.
It
Shayna.
is
We're looking at a
Hi.
horse.
Yeah.
unbelievable.
Like in the
So this
next
is
room.
Joy, right?
So,
Oh
So here you have, so she's the horse, right? And then
wow.
right here you have Milo, who's a cat,
chilling
who's
like
just
cats
who's
do.
just chilling.
Literally.
Here you have another animal who is Marley. Hey, buddy, and who are all like really really sweet.
Oh my
Okay.
God.
And you see, even this is trust right here. He could in a second easily break my finger, right?
Yeah, I was
But
just
he
gonna
knows
say, how are you trusting
he
him right now to not?
knows exactly how much pressure to put. Now he is actually getting upset. Like, why are you petting him and not petting me? So that's an excellent conversation to talk about patience, right?
Or
Hey,
about sibling
buddy. Now
rivalry.
look how sweet he is. Hi. Hello to you too.
Oh,
What's
wow.
going on?
Oh,
Are you okay? Peter, can
Do
you say
you
I
bring
love you?
your clients into this room or you bring the animals
Yeah, yeah,
after
yeah.
them?
This room is for my clients. So they
Wow.
come in here, they do all the therapy in here, or we bring it into the other office.
wow.
There you go. That's the
Oh,
tortoise
Oh,
wow.
right
That's a,
there.
is
little
that a turtle?
turtle.
I feel like
Yeah. So
I'm at Petco. I feel like we went to Petco, Danit.
Literally.
Wow. So what's
so this
this
is
bird's name?
this is Peter, and Peter is an umbrella cockatoo. And every single one of these animals, they have a. You want to
Look
dance?
at
Dance.
her
Can you
hair,
dance for
her
us?
feathers.
Dance,
She's
dance, dance, dance,
incredible.
dance. Yeah, and can you say I love you? Can you say I love you? I love you too. Hi. Hi, baby.
This
All right.
is
And then
unbelievable.
over here, we have an African gray. Her name is Donna. Donna. Hey, buddy. Hi. Hi, buddy.
How many birds do you have?
I have three parrots. And then right over here, I have some parakeets that were actually born
Oh
here. Right over here.
wow.
No.
They were all born here. So let me give you a little tour. So you wanted to know where the look at this.
My therapist has paws. Oh, I love that.
So
Oh,
here, these are the cockroaches.
those are big for a cockroach,
Yeah,
would you say?
they're called Madagascar
Oh
hissing
my,
cockroaches.
I'm having
Okay.
major exposure
So
therapy right now.
if you notice, when I showed you the cockroach, you kind of scrunched up your face. So what I would say is relax your face, relax your jaw, take a deep breath. You're in a safe space. That's it. There you go. That's step number one, right?
Free therapy.
So yeah, exactly. And then right over here, look. So now he's actually not letting me go because he wants me to play with him. He wants me to interact with him. So this is his way of saying like, no, 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 please don't go. Stay with me. Right? He's not putting
Um,
pressure, but he's also not letting me go. I gotta go, buddy. All right. Here's Milo, who's such a
cat,
mush.
Yeah, she's
cute
Um,
very
for a
sweet.
cat. She's really cute.
she's
Yeah.
like the best girl ever. I mean, she behaves more like a dog, to be honest, but she is the sweetest. Like, look at her. Look at her. She's so sweet. Here we have a iguana, and by the way, here, check this out. Here we have an iguana who's hiding over there. Here we
Oh,
have a tortoise right
Aw.
here. Her name is
wow. Oh, wow.
Diana.
That's a huge tortoise
Here,
right there.
here we have a snake.
Oh wow.
Oh,
Hey,
wow.
Oh
What
my
kind of
buddy.
God.
snake is that?
This is a ball python.
So poisonous?
Here we have. Hey, buddy. Come here, come here, come here, come here, come
I love the birds. Like they're vying for your attention. I thought that was just dogs.
I thought that was
They
just
really
children.
are. They really are. Like, look at this guy. Like, I want to put him back in the cage. So here, watch. Here's hello. So they'll do whatever they can to get attention.
It sounds
Sounds like kids.
like it sounds like
Right.
children.
Yeah, exactly. So it's actually a fun fact. When I get here you go. So when I get into my when I get back into the office, I'll tell you something funny about that. So here we have Albus, who's a bearded dragon,
Oh,
Okay.
right here.
wow.
That's cute-ish. Interestingly.
Interesting. You know,
Right over
I'll let
here,
you look at it from behind the glass.
Right.
right over
Behind
here, we have
behind
some
the
hamsters in
phone,
there,
behind the glass.
and then here we have a leopard gecko. I say, hey, buddy.
Aw.
Hi.
Oh my gosh, I should have brought all my kids to. I'm gonna say this for all my kids. They're gonna love
I
it.
know. This is
You should have
amazing.
a
Wow.
TV show.
Yeah, you really should. I feel like it would go really
And
like it
then
would be super
here,
fun.
we have a tarantula, who's the cutest
Then
little
it's getting
girl.
ready.
Precious. Adorable. Just want to snuggle her up.
Yeah, she's really cute.
Is she
Oh,
like, is it like fluffy? Is it like furry?
what do they feel like?
Wow.
Oh,
I actually think I would be able to hold that
I
if I had to.
no, not me.
Is my sister
All right.
still here? I wonder how she's feeling just watching that. Like it's
I don't.
actually, you know what? What would you recommend a tarantula as a pet? Because I think for someone who wouldn't get a dog, it seems like the next best thing, no? Or no?
So this is what I would say.
Oh,
It's definitely something cool to have. That's for sure. In terms of affection, because it's more of a visual. They don't really like to be petted, but they don't mind being held. So let me just make sure I close everybody in here. Hang on, everybody's good. Okay.
You're like
Um,
no, like Danit said earlier, like Noah on the table,
oh,
like
it's
Noah
funny.
on his back.
literally, like
Look,
come to the back of my office. I have a horse.
Where are the sheep and the
It's
lions?
basically a zoo in here, exactly.
so hang on a second. Let me just turn this over. So going back, so that is the animal therapy room. So we can definitely talk in my office. Here, I'll show you what my office looks like. So when a client comes in, they'll sit in my office, and then we'll be able to kind of go into the. Hang on a second. Let me get back on. Okay,
You can take the.
that was the
Do they
tour.
go? Do they go into the room, or you bring the animals into the therapy room?
Yeah, they could go into the room depending on which animal the person wants to work with. So if they want to work with the dog, we can make that happen. If they want to work with any animal, usually it really depends on the client and what they're looking for. Sometimes for a client who's hesitant to start therapy, we will go to that room because that's a great way to establish rapport. But for someone who that can be too much stimulation, like for someone who's ADHD, and they'll really kind of be focusing on everything, that might not be the best fit. So we'll choose an animal, come to the room, work with that animal, work on the exercise that we're working on for that day, or sometimes we'll just use it as a reward because sometimes with focusing, it can be really difficult to stay on task. So when they come in, we'll say, we'll do, 30 minutes or 25 minutes of the exercise, whether it's talking about, appropriate and inappropriate behaviors, talking about impulse control, different strategies of that, working on routines of their day, the morning and night routine, whatever the client is dealing with. And then as a reward, if they're able to stay on task and finish everything that they were supposed to finish, we go into the animal room, and that is such a huge reward. And as a therapist, you always want to be able to lean on something to encourage your clients, especially that young, because when you're working with an adult, it's a little bit easier because the adult really wants help and they want resolution. But for a young child, a lot of the time it's like, why am I here? Get me out of here. My mom wants me to be here. I don't need it. They need it. So you need to create a safe space for everyone.
Wow.
Is it noisy, like for your neighbors? Like, do they make noises, the animals,
So
or?
again, you just heard a lot of noise when we went into that room because it was very out of character. They were all settled at first, and then I come in and I'm on my phone, not really just saying hi and not really giving them the proper attention that they need. Usually, I would come in, take out the animal, kind of put them by my face, say a proper hello. Like these little details people don't pay attention to, but it's a world of a difference. And then they know, okay, we're in work mode or whatever it is. Now it was more of like a tour. Come in, let me just show you real quick. My energy, actually, if you notice, they matched my energy
Yeah.
because I'm coming in. You're both so excited. I'm excited. Here, guys, take a look. What's happening here? And they all did pretty much the same thing. The dogs did that. The parrots did that. But if we would be very settled, and usually how I am with my clients, which is like work mode, most of the time they're also like that. But if they are responding the way they did, usually they're telling me something. When you have trained animals, there's no such thing as bad behavior. Every behavior is just telling you something, whether it's I want attention, I'm not comfortable, I'm scared, I'm nervous, I'm anxious. It's being in tune. So when working with parents, yes, we're talking about animals right now, but this is the same concept. When you were actually, you said something about the birds. I think they were making noise or something. And when you learn to also, I don't want to use the word tune it out, but when you learn to be emotionally regulated and not take it personally and overreact, when I'm balanced, it won't affect me. A lot of the times when parents are dealing with children who are needy, let's say, and I don't like to use that word needy, but who appear to be needy, and the parents respond negatively because of it, it's on you. You're dealing with your own stress
Right.
that you're putting onto the child. If you're well balanced, your child's neediness, let's call it, won't really affect you because you can empathize with them and be like, okay, how can I meet your needs? What would you like from me, right? But when you have so much on your plate and you're dealing with so much, and then they're asking you what they're asking you because they're small, it's too much for you. It becomes overwhelming. I
Right.
see you both like nodding your head, like, yes, that's true.
Because that's really part of, the whole journey of parenting, especially with teenagers who are, I don't want to use the word demanding, but they do demand your time, your attention, your everything. So
Yeah,
if you're not regulated, or if you haven't done the internal work on what triggers or what upsets you, why you have a hard time with self-regulation yourself, then how do you expect the child to mirror that if you haven't done it?
absolutely. Hit the nail on the head. Absolutely. And You know, a lot of the times through this is even just really allowing yourself to also start to create that change. Oftentimes parents want their child to change and want these behaviors to get fixed. But a lot of times if you look at the home, parents are also dealing with their own stuff that's not resolved yet and that they're putting off and not really working on. That is the biggest lesson from all of this is parents really, when parents work on themselves, that's the number one priority. When parents work on themselves, it spills over to the children.
Yep.
If there's anything that came out of this conversation, that is the takeaway.
Yeah.
Work on yourself and your children will follow. Now, does that mean children will still not challenge you? Of course, it doesn't mean that because they're also depending their own individuality. But if they have someone who they feel safe to be themselves and know they will not be judged and they're able to talk about their challenges and struggles, you will have so much more of an easier time as they age.
Right. I mean, that's literally what Shaina and I do as coaches. If people call us and say, "Do you know a therapist for my child?" We're like, "We're not going there. You're going to be the therapist. You're the one who can fix things, believe it or not." Obviously, if the situation is not, completely
Sometimes,
dysfunctional.
yes, sometimes
Right.
there are children who
But
actually do need.
for regular situations, like you said, it's just about the parent regulating themselves and getting the proper tools to deal with their kids.
Yeah.
And I love what you said about the animals, how when you went in, if they're behaving a certain way, it's because there's something going on. It's the same thing with kids.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. And if you, just like we do with animals, if you allow yourself to get curious and not pass judgment, that is the game changer. Because a lot of the times, I'll give you an example. Let's say you get a call from the principal, your child punched another child, right? What do you naturally, what do you do? What kind of boy did I, not you guys, but someone would do? Um, what kind of child did I raise? How can you do this? You're going to be grounded. I'm taking away this. I'm taking away that. But in reality, it's before you do that, just get curious. Like ask, hey, like what? Tell me about today. Like what happened? And without all of that pent up energy that's boiling up, just empathize, right? I know it sounds so cliche, but that's really what it is. Meet your kids where they're at without making faces. It's interesting, by the way, when we were looking at the bugs, the cockroaches or tarantulas, you kind of like scrunched up your face, right? That, by the way, is very telling what we naturally do. We don't allow the change to happen. So oftentimes what I will do is I will call out my clients in the session and say, relax your face, relax your jaw, lower your shoulders, take a deep breath. When we change our body, naturally our brain becomes more open to change, more open to being curious. And usually, and what did you say right after that? You said, I actually can see myself holding that tarantula, right? You got curious, and that's the key for change to happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Oh.
So we're coming off on the end. Instagram doesn't like more than our lives for some reason. It will kind of just shut down. So I just wanted to end off by first of all thanking you for giving us
Yes.
your time,
Sure.
And
because
your
I know how busy
tour.
you are. I know how busy you are, and this was such a gift for us because animals and dogs, especially with Danit and I, with our families, have become such a huge part of our healing process that I can only imagine on the scale that you have with horses and equestrian therapy. I know is also a huge thing that I just really wanted to get you on here because I feel like in our frum communities, animals are still a kind of like this taboo thing of like, oh my gosh, it's tameh and it's,
Right.
it's muksa on Shabbos and there's all these halachas
That's
involved.
probably an entire different episode that we're gonna
You
have to have.
you took the words out of my mouth. As you were speaking, I'm like, oh my god,
Part two.
that is a whole episode on its own. Because you're right, unfortunately, but slowly it's changing. I have
Yeah.
clients from Muncie and Borough Park and different areas of Brooklyn, and it's
Yeah.
getting there.
Yeah. So
Yeah. No, we'll
we're starting slowly starting to bring awareness to like Hashem made these animals.
right.
Everything's from Hashem. Who are we to
100%.
decide if this is, yeah. So I'm really grateful that you allowed, that you that you agreed to give us your time today, because I know how precious, every hour is on a Sunday, for taking away from your family and your animals. And so thank you so much.
It's my pleasure. It's
Yeah,
my
and
pleasure
Avi,
to
Connected
we're
in
both of
gonna
all of
you.
our,
we'll post your contact info. So any, people that didn't know about this
Sounds good.
before, if they think it will be good for their family, for their kids, for themselves, I might come see you about the cockroaches. Maybe I'll practice my breathing. But
It
really,
sounds
thank
good.
you so much. It was
It,
fantastic.
it
We're
was
gonna record it. It's gonna be on YouTube. It's gonna be on Spotify. You could send it to everyone
yeah, we'll
you
send
all.
you links.
awesome. That would be great. And thank you guys also for inviting me to your podcast. I think it was a great talk today, and yeah, I think it's so awesome to be able to have other animal lovers and see the work that they actually do, and to share that conversation with someone is also I love it. This was very enjoyable for me too. Thank you so much to all the listeners and people who are watching and people
We
who
have a
tuned in.
question for you,
Yeah,
Avi. Do you do virtual therapy?
I do virtual therapy. At this time right now, I'm not taking on any new clients. I do have a waiting list right now, which maybe in a few months, sometimes in the summers, there's a little bit more flexibility, but I do virtual therapy. The animal therapy would be a little bit of a challenge, but yes, I do virtual therapy.
Okay, good to know. Thank you.
Only in New York, by the way. Only if you live in New York, nowhere
Oh, okay.
else. That's where
Got
I'm
it.
licensed.
Okay.
Got
Oh,
it.
that makes sense. That makes
Yeah.
sense. Okay.
All right, guys, take care. Have
Thank
a
you
Thank you
good
so
again.
night.
much,
This was
Avi.
Yes.
And
great.
we'll see you, Danit, next week on our next
Next
episode.
one. Thanks,
Bye.
Avi.
Thank
Take
you.
care.
Bye. Take
Bye.
care.